Welcome to the Black Guys Podcast. Today we're talking about Black pride and about rebuilding the self-worth of Black people after generations of being mocked, diminished, ridiculed, and pushed to the side. This conversation is about healing. It's about emotional well-being. And it's about why Black people need Black spaces in order to truly repair what has been damaged over time. For generations, Black people have been told directly and indirectly that we are less than, less intelligent, less capable, less worthy, less beautiful, less valuable. Those messages didn't come from nowhere. They came from systems that benefited from our labor while denying our humanity. Over time, hearing those messages repeatedly does something to the psyche. It wears you down. It chips away at your sense of self. Black pride is about restoring what was taken. It's about rebuilding self-worth after being counted out again and again. It's about remembering who we are when the world has spent centuries telling us who we are not. And that kind of restoration cannot happen in environments where we are constantly being judged, misunderstood, mocked, or exploited. This is why Black spaces are necessary. Black spaces are places where we can be ourselves without having to explain ourselves, where our expressions are not policed, where our culture is not treated like a trend, where our pain is not minimized, where our joy is not exoticized, where we don't have to shrink, code switch, or perform to be accepted. These spaces are not about excluding other races or cultures. They are about emotional safety. They are about healing. They are about being able to exist without being on guard all the time. And that matters more than people want to admit. Emotional well-being requires safety. Safety requires understanding. And understanding often comes most easily from people who share lived experiences. When Black people are allowed to gather, celebrate each other, support each other, and exist authentically, something powerful happens. We begin to soften. We begin to heal. We begin to unlearn the internalized messages that told us we weren't enough. That is how generational trauma starts to break. Without those spaces, the trauma turns inward. When a community is constantly taken from, mocked, and discredited, the pressure doesn't disappear. It gets redirected, and often it gets redirected at each other. This is how we end up being overly critical of one another. This is how comparison and competition take root. This is how the crab in a bucket mindset forms. Society already told us there's only room for one Black woman, one Black man, one acceptable version of us. So instead of celebrating our differences, we start fighting over scraps. We start policing each other. We start exploiting each other. Not because it's our nature, but because the environment trained us to survive that way. That is not unity. That is conditioning. The conquer and divide strategy has always worked the same way. You take from a people. You discredit their abilities. You deny their contributions. You mock their culture. And then you stand back and watch as they turn on each other out of exhaustion and scarcity. That's how division is created. Black pride is the antidote to that. Black pride is not arrogance. It is not supremacy. It is not hatred toward others. It is self-respect. It is self-affirmation. It is saying we matter even when the world tries to convince us otherwise. When Black people say we need Black spaces, we are not saying others are not allowed to exist. We are saying we need places where we don't have to defend our existence, where our achievements are celebrated without suspicion, where our struggles are understood without dismissal. It is about well-being. It is about growth. It is about healing a nervous system that has been in survival mode for generations. And yet, when we talk about Black pride, there is often censorship, pushback, discomfort, as if affirming ourselves is somehow dangerous, as if loving ourselves is something we should feel guilty about. That reaction alone tells you how necessary this conversation is. Why is it acceptable for everyone else to celebrate their heritage, their culture, their identity, but when Black people do it, it's treated like a problem? Black pride does not erase anyone else. It does not diminish anyone else. It does not threaten anyone else. It simply centers us. And centering ourselves is necessary when we've spent centuries being pushed to the margins. Black pride is about emotional repair. It's about reclaiming dignity. It's about creating environments where Black people can thrive without being exploited for creativity, labor, or culture. It's about teaching younger generations that they don't need to seek validation from systems that were never built to affirm them. When we have Black spaces, we don't have to perform, we don't have to prove, we don't have to compete for one seat at a table that was never meant to hold us all. We can build our own tables, our own standards, our own definitions of success. And when we do that, the internal fighting begins to slow down. The comparison loses its grip. Appreciation replaces competition. Community replaces scarcity. That is how healing happens. Black pride is about honoring our differences within the community, our different paths, our different expressions, our different gifts. It's about recognizing that we don't all need to look the same, think the same, or live the same way to be worthy. We were never meant to fit into one box. The reason Black pride feels threatening to some is because it disrupts the narrative that we should be grateful for scraps. It challenges the idea that our value must be validated by external approval. It says we see ourselves, and seeing ourselves clearly is powerful. Black spaces are not about exclusion. They are about restoration. They are about mental health. They are about emotional safety. They are about giving Black people room to breathe after generations of being under pressure. This is not about shutting others out. It's about letting ourselves in. Black pride is about the well-being of the Black community, the growth of the Black community, the healing of the Black community. And there is nothing shameful about that. We deserve spaces where we can be whole. We deserve spaces where we can be proud. We deserve spaces where we can heal. This is the Black Gods Podcast.